Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we are recording today, which is the land of the Ngunnawal people. It is beautiful here, but it is hot. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and sovereignty was never ceded.
We would also like to acknowledge our privilege within the industry and that a large proportion of the industry does not experience the same amount of privilege that we do as white cis workers. Is there anything else that we are that's privileged? A lot of things.
I mean, yeah, there are other things.
I mean, there's a lot of things that we have that are privileged, and
I feel like we're straight passing.
Straight passing,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like me with my marriage.
Yeah.
That's very straight passing.
And and a lot of people do it a lot harder than us and cannot relate to a lot of the things that we say, but are also
and we're incredibly attractive.
We are.
So that's
a
privilege.
Massive privilege. Yeah. Look, I consider myself, I'm part-time attractive. It's,
Okay.
It's something I have to put effort into.
See, I can't switch it off.
No, it's just always happening. But yeah, there are a lot of people out there that face a lot more challenges than we do, and we don't speak on behalf of those people. And we acknowledge that.
I shouldn't joke about that. We do genuinely mean it. It's something that I feel like sometimes our listeners might be like, oh my God, you say this every time, but it's so fucking important and it continues to be relevant. So
of course it does.
As much as we have a laugh, we mean it.
Yeah, it is important for us to recognise that there are workers out there that face much tougher challenges than we do, and that are faced with really horrible consequences for some of the things that we discuss quite lightly in our episodes, and some of the things that we don't discuss on the show that we've experienced, or that it might be a little bit more traumatic, that we've been through are horrible for us, but people go through worse. I don't know how to articulate that in a way that isn't really confronting. But yeah, it's an industry which a lot of people face challenges, and particularly those that have intersecting marginalisation. They face many iterations of that stigma and discrimination, and that fucking sucks, and it can be dangerous.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
You need to get the fuck rid of it.
So every time you listen and you hear us do that little disclaimer and you think, oh, here they go again, I guess, just keeping in mind that we want to say, well, like, shit, we're really lucky. That's the bottom line. And, we're here to broaden your mind, but also there is a lot more that goes on out there, and we don't speak for everyone.
In today's episode, we are talking about being dangerous in the bedroom, and not in the sexy tramp stamp way of Holly's.
It's not a tramp stamp. It's a butt
it's on your
stamp.
bum. It's a butt stamp.
Yeah, you did the tramp stamp.
Yeah, I've got the tramp stamp.
I was very edgy. I went straight on the butt cheek.
Oh, this is why you're a high-class escort.
High class.
Only on the butt for you.
Butt, yeah.
But in the way where things have gone wrong and people have gotten injured and ill, and these are the things that happen sometimes when you've got multiple bodies being slammed against each other, and things go wrong sometimes.
Well said.
So we're just going to tell you a bunch of stories, basically. Take it away, Holly.
So on a nice winter's night in about 2018 or 2019, I was having a romantic evening with a long-term lover at that stage. And he was on top, I believe. Yes, he was on top. And
I think that's important to the story, isn't it?
To the story,
yes.
Yeah. I'm just not framing the story well, because I don't remember the prelude. I just remember us going at it and me looking up at whatever point, and he looked down into my beautiful, feline eyes, and he was like, oh shit. And I was like, what? And he goes, oh shit, I'm bleeding on you. And I was like, what? And I didn't realise, and I sort of, I guess it was just dripping so heavily that I couldn't actually sort of see it. Anyway, yeah, he had a blood nose all over my face. Nothing had happened. I guess just mid-sex, the nose had started bleeding. It was dripping all over me, and I didn't feel it, I guess, because it was like body temperature, and I was having sex, which was great.
Yeah, in the moment.
And he was quite horrified and quite embarrassed by it, but I was like,
that's such a horror movie moment when one person looks at the other person in horror, and the other person's like, what's happened? And they've got blood all over them, and the first person's been shot or something, that moment.
He's like,
yeah.
Just falls down on me.
And you're like, what's wrong, babe? And you just got blood pouring off you.
Yeah, he was like, really fuck, I'm so sorry. And I was like, dude, don't worry about it. It's like, and we've sort of mentioned before, with sex and blood, you need to be careful with these sorts of things. We don't want to have we don't want to be transferring blood to each other.
We'll be mixing up our blood
as
streams.
much as we can.
No.
It's not something that's practiced in safe sex or safer sex. So yeah, try not to do that. But
Although some people do involve blood in their sex.
That's fine. Yeah,
but as a general rule,
try not to. Yeah, so that was a mishap that was relatively entertaining. But yeah, I was fine. I just mopped it up and we kept going.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, face full of blood.
I'm surprised, given I have a husband who has a propensity for bloody noses.
Does he?
I've never had that happen.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So, I'm glad. I'm okay with that. But speaking of blood, I do have a blood story.
Tell me a blood story.
And this is the story that I have been teasing for our listeners. I've told it publicly before anyway, but I think we mentioned it in the first episode. It has been mentioned. And this was the Great Darwin Trip of 2019. So I did my first ever trip to Darwin. And on the first day, I think I had 2 clients, and the second one was somebody that I had actually seen a couple of times before, I think, because they used to live near me and then they had actually moved up to Darwin. So whenever I go to a place for the first time, it's always a bit daunting because I'm seeing a bunch of people I've never met before. So it was really nice to know that I had this person who I had seen before and who is one of the loveliest people literally in the world. Such a lovely guy. So we had this booking together, and I can't remember if we had done it before or not, but he wanted to give fisting a go, fisting my vagina. And I was like, yeah, sure, because it's something that I had done a number of times before. And look, it's always the kind of thing where I say it's never a guarantee. Sometimes it's just not going to happen. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, we're a bit sore there. We might get 3 or 4 fingers, and I go, nah, it's not going to happen today, buddy. But I thought, yeah, no, let's go for it. Let's give it a go. And especially with somebody I like and I'm into, I can really quite enjoy that. So we're doing it. We didn't get. I really need visuals for this.
I'm watching.
I'm putting my hands around my wrist. we didn't even get to the knuckles, basically. And then there was this sudden shot of pain went through my pussy. I think I screamed out. He obviously pulled his hand out straight away. And I kind of collapsed onto the side and was like, something's happened. And basically, I had a tear in my vagina. And I think a lot of people who have vaginas might be familiar with the term micro tears. A lot of us get micro tears in different ways on our body and whatever. And so this was the first time I had seen a tear. The micro part was not there. This was a tear. And I think when you tell this story in broad strokes, people have this assumption that we were having really rough sex and that, a guy was being really brutal with me and he hurt me. And it could not be more different. From my experience with any kind of fisting stuff or any kind of extreme exertions, it is so rarely rough. The idea, I think when people hear fisting, they think of somebody with their hand in a fist, punching. Yeah. And from my experience, it's much more of a very slow process to get it in there in the first place. And there's not even always an in-out motion afterwards. Sometimes once it gets in there, it's just in there. Yeah. It just sits there, yeah. So it's really not look, sometimes it is in porn. It's quite violent. I don't know how the fuck they're doing that, but that has never been my experience with it. And I find it quite romantic because it involves a lot of communication and a lot of feeling it out and adjusting, and then we go to the next stage and all of that. This client is, as I said, one of the loveliest people I have ever met, was so gentle, did not do anything wrong. It just, and as I've had bigger than that in me before. People push babies out, it didn't go too far. Just happened. I don't know, bodies are weird. And something was in the wrong spot or whatever, and I got a tear.
Must have been horribly painful.
It was very painful, but do you know what? Briefly painful. At that moment was I screamed, that was a really painful moment, but I kind of liken it to when I got my nipple pierced because that was ow, fuck me, that's painful. Yeah. And then it kind of went away.
Then you need to leave it alone because that's the thing. Yeah, whenever I've had micro tears with my pussy, a particularly vigorous session, I'm but I can't be touched there for a couple of days. It's got to heal. Right?
That's the thing. It's got to heal.
It's not actively painful, but if you put anything there, it's going to be.
I would say for 24 hours afterwards, I could feel it. Like I was aware of it. And a couple of times when I weed, it stung, which I thought was confusing given the anatomy. But as we've covered on the show, I'm not great with anatomy. So
you're not great with
I was a bit confused. No, I'm not good at any of those things really. So I was a bit confused about that.
Are you peeing upside down?
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what I was doing?
You should sit on the toilet. Handstanding on it.
The handy thing was this client is actually a doctor. And I was like, look, while you're down there, can you give me some first aid, you know? And he had a little bit of a look and he was like, yeah, look, there's a tear. I was like, would you mind taking some photos for me? And like, yes, I still have the photos and yes, I still think they're amazing.
And you've never showed me.
I've never showed you?
You have never.
I've showed so many people.
You must show me.
I've showed so many people that have not wanted to see it and I haven't shown you.
I know.
Okay, well, I will in a minute.
Please.
Anyway, sorry. So, God, this has been a longer story than it needed to be.
No, I love it.
But
the viewers will be, or listeners? Not
listeners.
They'll be cheering.
Okay, my mum won't.
You could probably say that for most of the
broken
episodes.
vagina
She
moment.
could go,
Yeah,
oh,
no,
God.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
God, it's tough to be her.
She's tough, yeah.
She's a tough woman.
Yeah.
The whole thing that was the worst part about all of this was that I was in fucking Darwin. And like, I don't want to be a hater, but I'm going to be. Because I don't know how many of our listeners have been to Darwin. But to give you an idea, like this city, which I mean, I don't think it has any business calling itself a city, let alone a capital city. But to give you an idea of this city, I was staying in the quote-unquote CBD. You know, I was staying in the middle of the quote-unquote city. And I arrived and I took this video outside of my hotel room. I went out onto the balcony. I took a video down the road in the middle of the city at 5 p.m. on a weekday, and there wasn't a single car. Like, what? That's not a city. Anyway, so then I was like, right, so I'm in Darwin. I've got another day and a half until my flight home. I've got a broken fucking pussy, and I'm a whore in Darwin. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? I decided I'd suss out the shops in Darwin. Like, I was like, oh, well, I'll go shopping. I'm in a city, right? I walked down this mall, and then I'd reach the end of it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's done. And my pussy kind of hurts. And I was like, I could go swimming with crocodiles, but that's probably not good with blood coming out of me, is it? That can't be good.
Just smash open the perspex.
Also, I'm a scaredy cat, and I wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway, I don't think. Well, I can't swim, and I'm a scaredy cat.
I don't think you need to swim in those. They put you in the tank.
I think it's preferable.
Probably. You're probably right.
I think it's always a good idea to be able to swim if you're going to be jumping into water. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But actually, a friend came and like picked me up and rescued me, and so that was wonderful. But yeah, I just thought, my God, I have come to Darwin, and the only reason I was here was to use my vagina, and I've broken it. And, you know, it was just this real, like, I feel like there's a country song in that, the whore in Darwin with a broken vagina. You know, there's something, it's very poetic.
It is.
Yeah. But, as I said, about 24 hours, I could feel it. I reckon within 3-4 days, I couldn't see the tear anymore. Like it had healed. It's very moist, I guess. It's like a tongue, right?
They do, yeah.
They healed up.
They heal quite well. I mean, it's like, you know, people have babies and they tear it all up. I'm not saying that heals overnight, but like they're quite adept at healing down there.
Yeah, they're good at that, yeah. And this is why so many people are horrified by that story. And first of all, a lot of those people have given birth. So, like, you want to talk about horrifying vagina situations. Jesus.
Push a human child out of one. Yeah, that's...
Or get it cut out of your stomach. Either way. Horrific.
Intense, yeah.
But it actually, like, it genuinely wasn't that bad. As I said, that 1 minute of pain was unpleasant. The being stuck in the middle of nowhere with a bleeding vag, unpleasant. And that was it. Like, it really wasn't that big a deal. But I haven't been fisted since. Because I was like, there's a little bit of trauma there, I would say.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you should discuss that misconception that people have about fisting or about damage that happens to pussies, and that it must be something quite violent to cause that. Because listeners will be familiar with me mentioning I have a client that I had to get a restraining order on a couple of years ago, and he used to just say the weirdest shit to me. But I remember once, in fact, we'll have to give him a name. What sort of name will we give him?
We should start naming people.
Give me like a code name.
Mr. Love we have a few names for my clients.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't say those on air, should I?
I'll be careful, yeah.
Mr. Hideous.
Oh,
No, that's not one. I'm trying to make up. They're not nice names. There's like T-shirt guy, hotel room guy. There are a couple of them.
Look, for now we're just going to call him restraining order guy because it works.
But which one?
Well, thankfully I've only got
restraining
one.
order
My
guy.
restraining order
We've
guy.
each got one.
We've each got one.
Every hooker's got one.
We've Yeah, and one day I had to cancel a booking with him, and maybe more than once, but I had to cancel a booking because I'd had a session the day before or that day, which had been quite damaging to me in one way or another, and I was sore and I was unable to work. And he'd send back messages like, oh, it must have been something really blah, 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 blah. And I was like, it doesn't have to be. Sometimes you just have, maybe a little not enough lube here, or they just go for, a couple of minutes too long, or you've done it in a weird position, or for that day you're just a little bit drier than usual. Like human bodies.
Or even something gentle over a long period of time.
It literally...
And then you don't notice it's happening, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got like a rash.
Really sore, It can be literally anything, and it's not a big deal. And it's not like at the time you're like, I've split something. It doesn't always have to be that dramatic. It can just be you finish having sex, it was great sex, and then you sort of go, oh, I'm tender, and I probably shouldn't put anything in there for a day or two while it heals, okay? But, this person always had conspiracy theories. Like, sometimes, one time I'm going to go on a quick tangent. One time I double booked. Like, I genuinely, someone had inquired, it was a regular for one date, and he'd, and I'd told them both I was available, and then the date got closer, and I went, fuck. And I don't often do that, but I was disorganised this week. And he was like, oh, you've just chosen a higher booking. Someone offered more money, and so you've cancelled. And I was like, I don't do that. I think that would be... I don't know. If that's how I treated all of my bookings, by just cancelling the existing one when I got a higher offer, I would lose all of my regular business. Like, that's just the most stupid... Anyway, this person has...
It's not sensible at all.
Conspiracy theory extraordinaire. So I have this, conception that I've been doing these really horrible graphic things to my pussy, and I was like, sometimes just sex can damage a pussy. It's just pussies.
Well, that's the whole point of this episode. Sometimes bodies are fragile sometimes.
And sex can just be dangerous.
It can be.
So, speaking of those dangers, it's not just us who has to worry. Sometimes our clients get themselves into danger as well. I feel like I've told this story so many times that I feel like I've told it on the show, and Jenna guarantees me I haven't. So
I'm sure you haven't.
Okay, well, here we go. So I had my octogenarian client, and for those who aren't sure of what a word means, he's in his 80s, and we were at a hotel for this booking, and he wanted a golden shower. So we popped him into the shower. There was no bath in this room. Popped him on the floor in the shower. I did golden shower on him, and then he went to stand up, but he had a little bit of trouble getting up off the floor. So to facilitate his ascension, he grabbed the towel rail, and most towel rails are not, securely bolted onto the studs of the house.
No, they're just to hold a towel, aren't they?
Yeah. So as he applied his weight to it, it snapped off the wall. He hit the floor so hard, so hard. And I was like, and I just watched him, and I thought, how bad is this? And he was like, no, I'm okay. And I was like, all right, shit. And I actually had booked the hotel in my name, so I was like, fuck, I've broken the towel rail.
Oh, yeah.
Am I going to be in trouble for this? Once we got past that he was uninjured, I still, to this day, I don't know how bruised he was. I bet you he had a horrible bruise. It was pretty bad.
Someone in their 80s falling in a bathroom. Yeah. That may not be a survivable incident.
It could be like a broken hip. It was pretty bad. And anyway, so I called down to the reception desk, and I was like, oh, hey, I've had an incident. I was in the shower and I slipped. And when I slipped, I grabbed the towel rail and it snapped off. And I tried to make it sound like I had this incident. Yeah. And the girl behind the desk was terrified. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry for
they would have been worried about a lawsuit.
They were so worried. They're like, please, is there anything? And I was like, no, I was just really worried that you'd be upset that I broke the towel rail. And they were like, no, don't worry at all. And I was like, yeah, cool, good. So there you go. We, cleaned everything up and left, and... never heard anything more about the towel rail, and he's fine. He's still kicking. He's still getting up to a fuckload of mischief as he approaches 85. So,
well, yeah, I don't know much about work health and safety, but I feel like it seems reasonable to assume that in a slippery room, that anything that could be load bearing should be load bearing.
I
kind of think there's something in that.
I feel like in a hotel it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because you might have, and I know they have ambulant rooms that but I feel like most rooms should be
somewhat
have a capacity for people.
And the story you made up of slipping in the shower and grabbing something is pretty reasonable.
Happen.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a story where nobody did actually get injured, but I have this client who brings, he has a very large penis. And so he needs like the biggest size of condoms, which they don't sell them in shops and stuff, which is just, I mean, that is a whole rant I can go on. And I stock them, but not every sex worker will always have them. So as a result, he always brings them with him. So he just has his little like sex baggie, which has those large condoms, and he uses cock rings. So it has cock rings and condoms in it. And this is like, I've got this issue with men. Listen up, men. I've got an issue with you. Which is, I don't know why, I feel like so many men are really like opposed to buying like bags, and they just put their belongings in plastic bags. I can't believe how many men I've seen come to my house and bring a little baggie for like toiletries or even just a toothbrush and toothpaste or whatever, something like that to freshen up, whatever. And it's in like a sandwich bag, a Ziploc bag or something. I'm like, get a real bag. Why have you got a plastic bag for? And I feel like it's so mean of me. I feel really bad because there are so many clients, like we've heard so many clients who are so worried about being judged for things, right? And they're so worried about how we perceive them. And I feel so mean because it's not something that they, like, I don't give a shit if you've put on weight. I don't give a shit if you've done a bad job of shaving, but or if you've got some ingrowns.
Dare have the wrong bag.
But this fucking plastic bag bullshit. And so they can't know that I'm going to judge them for that really weird little minor thing. But every time I see them, and I have complimented men as well. I've had clients come in with like a bag with their belongings in it, and I've been like, oh, toiletries bag. That's nice. And they probably think I'm so cooked. Yes. But I'm like, no, because you are an adult man. You have gone, I have some things that need to go into a bag. I'm going to go out and purchase a bag. Rather than getting a bag for sandwiches. Like, it's for sandwiches. It's not
look, I don't think it's that big a deal.
I've got a real issue with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And also, I'm so sorry to the client that I'm about to tell this story about because they do listen to this podcast. And it's fine. You can keep up with your plastic bag. I've never brought this up to you before. And now you're going to be like, oh my God, she's been hating my plastic bag. It's fine. It just makes me dry up and I have to apply lube. Like, it's fine. Anyway, so, long story short, it's actually a really short story that I've made really long by going on a rant.
Short story long.
It's short story long. Has this little baggie, and now it's really common for hookers to have candles in their rooms, right? One, because, I always have a candle going because, one, I'm paranoid that my sex room smells like a sex room. Because, when you're in your own house, you get used to your own stink. You don't know because you don't smell anything.
But I almost always have a candle going as well.
You're worried about So the stink, and also it's like a bit of atmosphere. It's a bit of vibe. It's a little flicker of a flame. It's hot, It
feels romantic.
So anyway, so he puts his little baggie down next to the candle, and we're going at it, and then there's the smell of burning plastic, and his little, there's a fire on the bedside table. There's still like black on there from where it is, which is, that doesn't matter. It wasn't an expensive bedside table, and his little baggie had gone up in flames, and actually, like, the good thing was, I was able to go and get, a fucking sandwich bag out of the kitchen to replace it, right? And if he had, like, a proper bag, then it would have been ruined. So I guess I've lost my own argument, haven't I?
But the reason it caught fire was because it was a plastic one that sort of flopped
that's
onto
true,
it, right?
The flopping. Yeah, there you go. No,
Whereas if it was
again.
like a nice, solid, little bag.
Thanks for winning my argument for me again.
I can twist it.
And it was amusing at the time. We were like, oh, shit.
Speaking of fire, which is always a really difficult thing for me because I can't smell. So I have no idea when things are burning unless I can see it or feel it. Essentially,
it's a part of your body which is on fire.
Very too late by then. So which is like incredibly dangerous. It's a reason why I don't like gas appliances and so on. During the bushfires, what was that? 2 years ago, 3 years ago now?
Which ones?
Oh, fuck.
The most recent ones.
The most recent ones that were just on the edge of Canberra. Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. It was just at the start of COVID.
Just on the edge of Canberra. They were also on, the entire eastern side of the country.
They were, but particularly at that point, Canberra nearly burnt down because a defence helicopter put its light on the grass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it burnt like half of the ACT.
That's a fuck up. Someone's lost their job.
They're doing an inquest into it.
Oh, good. I will read that, won't we?
Read of it. Yeah. So during that time, obviously there was a lot of smoke in the air. That's when we all started to begin wearing N95 masks because of the smoke inhalation. Remember that? That was our first experience of a panic buy.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to the hardware stores. They were sold out of these masks. And I was still doing bookings at the time because I was nowhere near the actual fires, but it was just really smoky in Canberra. So one day I had a client over and we had a booking, and at some point during the booking, I thought, God, the house is full of a lot of smoke. At that time I was living in a house which was undeniably falling apart around my ears. Anyone who ever visited me at that house would know it was very run down, and so anything that was outside was going to be inside. So the house was really smoky, and I just thought it was bushfire smoke and continued with the booking. And maybe if I had a sense of smell, that would have been different, because maybe I would have smelt the plastic that was burning.
It is a different smell.
Yeah. So I saw my client for hours. The booking was 4 or 5 hours maybe. They left and the house was so smoky and I had a really bad headache. And
oh my gosh,
like,
you were poisoned.
I was fully poisoned. And I went to the kitchen to get something at some point, and I looked past the oven and I realised what had happened. One of my many cats had jumped on the stove and knocked the mop over, which was near one of the dials, I guess, knocked the dial on. And at that point, I had not learnt to cook, because I learnt to cook during the first lockdown in Canberra for COVID. So I never used the oven. I had not used the oven in the 5 years I'd lived there at that point, or 4 or 5 years. So I used to just keep things on there, just bags, especially Woolworths bags. I had all these plastic bags sitting on there. And so the cat had knocked on the stovetop, and smouldering for hours with these plastic bags, and they were all melted to the cooktop. And I had just been breathing in this plastic smoke for hours, and the house was filled with it.
And so was your client, and your client didn't say anything?
No,
didn't notice it?
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe they did notice and they just didn't say
They're
anything.
trying to be polite or something. They thought, God, this woman's house is
plastic. It's just a candle. Like, that's my favourite scent. So had something else been fallen on that stove, or who knows, or I'd gone to bed and not realised, who knows what could have happened. But and the smoke alarm didn't, maybe I'd taken the battery out because of the bushfires. Because it was going to go. Now that I think about it, it was going to be going off.
Yeah, okay.
So thinking about the smoke alarm didn't go off.
Yeah, because I've had smoke alarms go off at the toaster.
Oh, me too.
They're pretty.
They can be sensitive. So there you go. So this near-death experience potentially.
I have a short story, though I probably said that about the last two, and they were not. This was years ago. I can barely remember it. Must have been pretty early on in my career. And it was a client I'd never seen before, came in, and we'd been going for like 5-10 minutes, not very long at all. He was standing up, like we hadn't even got into the bed. I was giving him a blowjob. I was on my knees, and I just got this like wave of illness over me. Like I started feeling really ill, and like I was either going to vomit or it was going to come out my bum. Like it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, something's not right. Something wants to eject itself from my body. And I was really like hot and flushed, and it was just really yuck. So I excused myself, and the bathroom was just right, like a metre away from where we were. So I said, I'm sorry, I've just got to go to the bathroom. Went in there, sat on the toilet for a second, splashed water on my chest, on my throat, like trying to cool myself down. And I don't even remember what came of it, but obviously I was not well. And so I came back out of the bathroom, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm feeling really sick. I need to end it there. Like, I'll give you all your money back. The money was like still sitting there on the bedside table right next to us. Like, I was like, take it all. And this guy was like, oh, are you sure? Like, can you not just finish? Or and I was like, I have empathy for his situation, like I understand you've gotten all excited, and we had gotten, we'd gotten started and all that. And I think he was like, oh, I've driven all this way, and I was like, no, look, I get that sucks. I totally get that. But something's about to come out of me, And I just thought, first of all, where is your empathy? And second of all, do you want to be ejaculating into my mouth while I've got diarrhea, or after? Like, what, it's not going to end well for either of us, babe. And it was a real thinking with your dick situation, which I understand at that point in time, his dick was full of blood, and I get that that's a thing. But I was like, as if you don't, like, you could be as pissed off as you like, but as if you don't pretend to be worried about the other person,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'd already sucked his dick for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you were getting nothing.
I was getting nothing.
You were going to give him all the money back. And, like, you know, it wasn't because you were like, oh, I'm over this. Like, see ya.
At that point, it would have been much easier for me to finish
it.
and take that money.
You were like, no, dude, like, this is serious. Like, I'm, like, not going to kick you out after I've sucked your dick for zero money if I was not going to shit myself.
No. And I can't remember, like, I don't know if anything came of it. I don't think I was sick or, like... I mean, I probably, went and did some really, really unpleasant poos or something. Well, I don't know if it was a bug or what, but regardless, it wasn't a good time. And this is what, their bodies. Sometimes they just don't work.
Well, I told you last week I was with a client. We went and had some adventures at the bowling alley and at the arcade, and we were leaving. I was going to take him back to his hotel to drop him back there, and we were driving out of the car park. I literally had just reversed the car out and accelerated maybe like 10 or 20 meters, and I went... Oh, no. I was like, this is really embarrassing, but I have to, like, park the car quickly and go inside because I just have to go to the toilet. Like, I don't know if... Yep. I don't know. And he was like, cool, like, it's fine. And I was like, oh, and like, just this sweat erupted. The sweat, and my body, my tummy went... And I was like, oh, no. And I was like, I don't know how, like... I don't know. And so I jumped out of the car and I ran back into the building and I went, oh, fuck, I forgot my mask.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, shit. So, but I'm like, there's no time. So I just ran through the foyer and like the entry was at a cinema. So then I'm like, are they going to let me through? Because I've got to go up into the toilets. And I was like, I'm not going to ask. So I didn't even look for the stuff. I just ran straight past them up towards the toilets and I ran in and the rest was history. So, yeah, it was a glamorous time. Anyway, so I splashed my face with water and all that sort of stuff, and I went back and I was like, I am so sorry. That was really ungraceful. And he was like, that's what everyone loves about you.
It's true.
Like, thanks.
It's true.
Thanks.
All right, I don't know if I can top it. Yeah, I can top it, I reckon. Yeah. Okay, so I was on tour and my second last client of the day I'd had a lot of anal sex with. So things were loosey-goosey, I'll put it that way, yeah? Not like, I mean, not gaping wide open, but I guess some room had been made.
Breathing through your ass.
Yeah.
More cavernous, there was no echo. Hello.
Okay, so it wasn't like that. And at that time, we've all got digestive issues, don't we? But I worked out I had gallstones and, that's all. Well, no, it hasn't really been sorted now. That's created a whole other set of problems. But regardless, I had some digestive issues. And my client after that one, we didn't have anal sex. We just had vaginal. We had a great time. It was really lovely and everything. And then as they were having their shower and getting ready to leave, I felt like, something's happening, And normally I book a place with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And in this place, I hadn't. Sometimes I'll compromise on the extra bathroom. So he was in the shower and I was like, well, I can't just go in and unleash whatever this is while he's showering, right? So I just held it in. But the aforementioned loosening had happened. So then he came out of the shower and we're heading towards the door. And oh my God, so the place is carpeted, but for whatever reason, there's like a square around the door that's tiled. And thank God that square is there because we were having this good chat and it was a really good chat. And I was trying to get him out because we're going. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
I can't believe you're telling this story. I'm like, if this was me, I would never tell anyone.
Well, this is the first time I'm telling it.
It's like poo jogger stories. They go to the grave.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I'm not.
So I'm saying, this is so, it gets worse. This is so embarrassing. I'm like, I don't know.
And this isn't even dangerous. This is like, we've gone on a poop tangent. Like, our listeners are like, we listen for other things and you just talk about poo all the time.
Poo all the time. We have had poo in our brains today and that's a story for another episode. As I'm saying goodbye and finishing up the conversation, it starts coming out. I am like, don't you fucking break eye contact with me. Do not look down. I didn't say anything, but that's what my brain, I was like, it just starts coming out. And it was there was no controlling it. It was just coming out down my legs. Anyway, I'm like, I've really got to let you go. Push him out the door, close the door behind him. And then I could not, at that point, then the gates opened, And thankfully I was standing on that tiled section and not on carpet. And I just like shat. And I think the client was none the wiser and just thought he'd had a lovely, sexy time. And little did he know, I was standing behind the door.
You were just pooping. You were pooping in front of him. Like,
I was pooping in front of him. Oh, my God. Mortifying. No one's ever going to book me again. But... yes, I don't know why I'm telling the story, but I do know why I'm telling the story. It's because this shit happens. I know shit happens. Very funny.
It does. We've had discussions with other workers in the industry who have mentioned that they have tummy issues sometimes in a booking, and you go, oh God.
I don't think there are many workers who don't have at least one poo story.
We've got to make that a guest segment. Like, come on, tell us your poo story. Everyone's
so please keep booking me. Others have that problem too.
I'm seriously, this has got to be an anonymous segment. I'm going to be like, send me your anonymous, and we will anonymously read out.
Let's do it. That's great.
Your poop stories.
Okay, well, let's cut mine from this episode. We'll add mine to the anonymous story.
I don't know if the viewers will love it, but I will love it.
No, I'm keen for that. That's great. Yeah, send your worst, most embarrassing shit.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, okay. Anyway, moving on. Back to the topic.
So, in an incident not involving my bowels, as many of my clients will know, I am often running late for bookings because, I don't know, I'm disorganised, I'm a procrastinator, I love to sleep in, there's so many reasons, but particularly if you've been a client for a while, I'm like, meh. They'll let me get away with my bullshit, and you do, and I love you guys
for this sweet pussy.
So nice of you. Yeah, you're like, it's okay if you still have to finish your makeup when I arrive, whatever. They're really all very tactful about it. But this day, and particularly at my other house, it was the worst because my clients had to walk through the house, and often I had to be like vacuuming up all the animal mess, and this house is still not quite as bad. The other house was just chaos. Anyway, I digress. So on this day, I had done my makeup and I had everything ready, and I was giving the house a quick cursory vacuum before the client arrived, and I put the vacuum down. I went to go and do something else, and as I came back through the house, I just wasn't looking, and I just walked straight into the vacuum cleaner, and my foot smashed it so hard, and my whole body shuddered. Like, I just felt that pain where you feel like a visceral, like all your cells die a little bit, like, oh God. And I was like, deep breaths. I was doing a few deep breaths, and I was like, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. It's fine. You just like stubbed your toe. It's okay. And then I looked down and my toe was black. Like, it was just black, and the toe next to it was like purpley black. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, it's okay. I'll do the booking. So the client turned up and I was like, hey, I think I fucked my toe, but it's okay. We'll do the booking. And he was lovely, and we had that session. And I sort of just didn't do anything about it. And so for about 2 weeks later, it was still painful.
Wow.
And I was like, this is really fucked. So I went to the doctor and they did an x-ray, and they were like, yeah, you've fractured your toe, and there's like a little, like a shard of the bone, which is like just floating in the middle of your toe.
Oh, good.
No, but there's like nothing we can do for a broken toe, right? Like, so they're just like, good luck. It'll heal as much as it can, and that's...
I broke my finger once, and they gave me like a splint.
Like a splint, yeah. Like, they don't really do it for toes.
Yeah,
well,
I guess it's hard.
And that was it. They were like, well, good luck. And they said, if it's really causing you issues down the track, you can look into, surgery.
Yeah,
that's often worse than the initial injury, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But yeah, so I did a booking with a broken toe. Or several bookings, I suppose. But literally right after I broke my toe. And several times while I owned that vacuum cleaner, I walked into it. I don't know what it is. You know how they say, like it's one of those survival things where like people don't look above eye level. So if you want to hide from people, hide in a tree. Like it's this thing. Like apparently,
or if you want to poo in front of them, just poo downwards.
Poo just straight down your leg and maintain eye contact. Yeah, it's in all the survival books that I've ever read. So, and that's, I don't know, so that's some psychological thing there where I just never looked down and saw, I'm just an idiot. And I just kept smashing my toe into this fucking vacuum cleaner, and every time it made me so angry. I don't think I broke my toe again though. So.
Yeah, so dangerous business. Do you miss the free and affordable ads and social networks without all of the anti-sex rhetoric?
Assembly 4 is a team of sex workers and technologists from Melbourne, Australia, aiming to bring back free and fair advertising and social spaces to the sex working community.
Stepping away from the clunky design of traditional platforms, their two products, Tryst.link and Switter.at, are refreshing and well-needed changes in both presentation and mission.
And both are free to join and open to all.
You can find both of our profiles on Tryst, and I love how it is so clearly designed by sex workers.
Yep, and I love how straightforward and easy it is to use and how much they clearly support the sex working community.
And also how responsive they are when it comes to feedback and customer service.
Check out their website assembly4.com for the word, not the number, for more info.
It's time for Shit People Say. Mr. What shall I call him? Mr. Man. Mr. Man sent me an email on the 20th of July saying, "Hey, you still an escort?" And I said, "Yep." And that was the end of that exchange. And then...
He just wanted to check. Yeah.
Just checking. Yep.
Making
okay.
sure.
4 months later, I got an email from Mr. Man saying, "Any reasonably priced escorts in the Blue Mountains? X." And I said, "What, aside from me?" And he said, "Haha, you're beautiful, but I'm looking more at the $150 an hour mark." And I responded with a link to the nearest brothel. And he responded, "Thanks, X." Then 4 days after that, I got, "Hey Jen, I wonder if there's much demand for male escorts servicing women.
Fuck off.
Could be a fun way to raise a few dollars," winky emoji.
Why does everyone think that they would be good at this job?
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure a lot of people might be, but it's so different when you want to be a male escort for women. There's so much more to it.
My response was, nope. Then a month after that, I got, "Hey desirable." Wait, sorry. First of all, the subject line, the rest of them hadn't had subject lines, but this one, the subject line was "banging buddy." And the body of it said, "Hey desirable, let me know when your prices are cheaper." He said, "Let me know when your prices are cheaper." And I responded, "Hey undesirable, let me know when you can afford me." And he said, "Haha, I adore the attitude, love heart eyes. You never know, when I become an accountant, I could very well become a regular," winky face emoji.
Oh, that sold me. Oh, God, please.
But the best part is, when I was scrolling through these messages to see if I could find something to deliver for Shit People Say this week, I discovered that I've seen this person as a client. He has booked me multiple times. And I've just been being such a cunt to him and I didn't even realise. Yeah, it turns out actually he has booked me and paid. He's paid my older rates, which are $100 cheaper than they are now, but they're still not $150 an hour. Like, they're, you know.
That's a very, we're not ever going to like price shame or be elitist in any of this, but that's a very affordable, like $150 an hour. You will find very few escorts who will charge that.
Well, not, private, very few.
Very, very few.
And even at a brothel.
Yeah. $150 an hour is incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
So that's just ridiculous that you would just casually like...
Yeah. I just think it's hilarious that I was being so...
Yeah, hey,
my responses were so rude.
Savage.
Because I usually respond like that when somebody's... Like, I thought he was a troll. I thought he was trying to rile me up and try, But he's actually a client. Well, he's probably not a client anymore.
Good. But he's not a client for $150 an hour.
No.
Our question of the week this week is from one of our beloved patrons. They ask... Do either of you have regular individual female clients? If so, what is the proportion between your regular female and male clientele? In listening to your pod and other sex worker podcasts, the default gender being discussed always seems to be men, and I'm wondering if this is a reflection of the escort industry.
So yeah, I know this patron is a female client of female escorts. And... yeah, bit of a tricky one. Do either of you have regular individual female clients? Yes, I would say that I have two regulars who are solo female clients. And over the course of working, I think I've only had 4 different solo females book me, if I'm not forgetting anyone. Maybe 5. So in terms of the proportion, in my case, very, very skewed towards men. And that, you know, we really do try to not always talk about clients as being men and as sex workers as being women. But from our personal experience, the men for me far outweigh the women. That being said, I do see a lot of couples, and I have a lot of regular couples. And generally, in my experience, in hetero couples between a man and a woman, it has been the woman who does the organising and who does all of the, you know, sort of suggests, oh, let's do another booking with Jenna or whatever. That's the perception that I get. And I've built up a good relationship with the women so I do feel, a connection and a regularity with the women in those situations. But I understand that's not what's being asked. Yeah, sadly, I've only got 2. I would like many more. Please come to me. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I've only had myself a handful during my whole career of female clients, solo, and I don't have any regular female clients anymore. One of them, you know, the ones that I did have moved on to a relationship, and the other one I believe has moved out of Canberra. So I would love more female clients. I think for a long time I was really intimidated by the idea of solo female clients because I felt like penis owners are very easy to please, whereas vulva owners are more complex in my experience, and that orgasm can be a bit more work. But I feel like that also was a misconception on my own part because I found that those clients, I seem to go fine with them. Like, I seem to have a really great time with my female clients, and I find that the sex is really passionate and honest and just happens. It's really natural and great. I would love more. I don't market towards women. I think that's a big part of it. I don't know if a lot of women know that I'm available and very keen for that. I actually did have 2 women booked just before all the lockdowns and the COVID flare up all started again, and I think, you know, they sort of sometimes they book and then that all happens and they get cold feet. They go, I'll put it off for a few more years. Yeah. And again, I've had a few couples bookings. I don't do couples bookings anymore because I find them really daunting. I find the dynamic intimidating and stressful for myself. It's can be quite overwhelming. But I've always found the same dynamic, that it's the women driving that, and that the dynamic with them is really cool and awesome and fun, and the man just sort of participates in absolute awe of his beautiful wife, and it's really cool. It's a great dynamic. But yeah, like, female clients would be 0.001%. Like, if I had to do a percentage, it would be incredibly small. Every year I sort of do my statistics. I'm a sucker for some stats and just to track where my business is going and stuff. And, you know, I would say, I'm happy to put it out on the podcast, probably 50 distinct clients in a year. And I'm lucky if one of those clients is a female each calendar year. So,
actually, speaking of statistics, Holly and I were sitting here together doing them together because that's how cool we are. And I worked out that one of my regular female clients is in my top 8 spending clients of the year. So that's something.
That's
good on her.
Really
Thank you.
committed.
Thanks for the pussy and for the dollars.
It's great,
Love
isn't
that.
it? Yeah.
Good combo.
Yeah.
But whether it's a reflection of the escort industry, that's a lot harder to say, because I think something that's important, as you said, marketing. Like, I really try to put out there that I want pussy, but, you know, we're both very femme presenting, aren't we? As I said at the beginning of the episode, we're pretty, like, we look like your standard straight girl, even though we're not.
Yeah. But then I also think of people like Petra Fox, who I know has a great reputation as a provider for women, and who I gather is quite successful in that realm and has quite a few female clients. And you know, she's very femme, but I suppose she's got that.
Yeah, but she's strong. We don't look strong.
No, okay.
We're like...
we're not.
Yeah.
You don't think lesbians are like weak?
No, not that women won't be attracted to us, but that women may not look at us and immediately think, yeah, they're going to want to see women. Maybe.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm completely speculating.
This is something that, I probably haven't reflected on, and maybe would be nice to try and work on in my marketing going forward.
Like, I know I've got a lot of friends in the industry who have hairy armpits, who have, short or shaved hair, or, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that they're signals. I mean, it's coding, right? Yeah. They're things that say, I am up for the pussy. And I feel like you and I visually, at first glance, potentially have less of those.
Oh, yeah, okay. I can see that.
Maybe.
Interesting. Maybe that's, so that is a reflection of maybe just our unique circumstances, and maybe there are other workers, who have those codings that give those signals to people who are booked more. So yeah, we can't speak as usual on behalf of the rest of the industry. So I don't know whether it's a reflection. I would say generally that most sex workers are seeing men. In really basic terms, I would say that's just how it is. But the intricacies of it would be very interesting.
Yeah, but I think then the question as to why that is pretty big.
Oh, it's huge. It's a societal thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a case of that women don't desire sex as much, or that there's obviously a lot to it.
Yeah,
and I think a big part of it is this constant narrative that men are the clients and women are the workers.
Yeah.
And so a lot of women who may consider doing that just aren't thinking about it because it's not the narrative that they've seen. And I think that itself could be a factor. So that's why we do try to, change that narrative and always say that, clients are not always men, and we've both had non-binary clients as well. And
we really would like to get a collection of female clients on here to have a chat about what they look for in who they book. But it's quite hard to get people who are comfortable talking about those sorts of things and putting themselves out there. So, hopefully something we can explore in more depth down the track. But a very interesting question. Yeah. Thank you to our excellent patrons. As always, we appreciate your support. Our even more generous somebodies are Timmy, Andrew, Adam Smith, Lachlan, Sub London, Miss Billy, Nora Knightley, Leslie, Scott Watson, Andrew, our secret admirer, Margaret, Wheezy, Ellen, Liam, Fritz Your Tits, Catherine, Mr. E and Scott C.
And our extremely generous somebodies are Aaron, Andrew, Pete, Amanda Valentina, Sienna Saint, Brino, Adam Moore, Nick, Wombat, Josh, and Theodore Betts I, Esquire. Thanks so much for tuning in again. We'll see you next time. Well, we won't see you. You might hear us.
You'll hear us
next time.
You'll hear us next time, pals. Bye.
Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.